And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. And we're still looking at temperatures above normal, with temperatures outside across the area into the upper 20s, on our way up to about 30. And even nicer weather and possible record-breaking warmth before the week is done. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. Good afternoon, Bridgette. Another day that doesn't really feel like February, although especially later this week. Today, a little chilly with the wind, but hey, I mean, we could be looking at much, much different weather this time of the year for sure.
Well, overall, it is February. Things do change tremendously. You just, got to be planning for all contingencies when it comes to this time of the year. Maybe not a big surprise that things will move along pretty fast, but last night, leaving Fargo late, there was actually a little bit of light drizzle, if you will. I don't think it was even reaching the ground. After it hit my windshield, it was probably done. So, little things like that, little moisture opportunities are going to happen more than likely, but we'll see how things go for the rest of the week. People are happy to see a reprieve of this terribly cold weather that's out there. Doesn't mean this is really moisture that's going in the ground. We still got a frost out there,
Right.
But nonetheless, we're at least getting a little bit of warm temperature.
Yeah, no doubt. And we do have some changes in store for next week. But this week, boy, I'll tell you, we're going to see some snow melting weather, and that will continue through this week again and even into the first part of next week. But for today, again, we're going to top out right around 30 degrees with a breezy northwest wind at about 10 to 25. Then tonight, we'll start to see a few more breaks in the clouds down into the teens, and tomorrow more sunshine with highs in the upper 30s. Now, Thursday, our record high is 43. I'm calling for a high of 41, so near record warmth on Thursday. We'll stay in the low 40s on Friday. Both Thursday and Friday, we'll have light winds and plenty of sunshine. And even as we head into the weekend, we are looking at unseasonably mild weather with upper 30s to low 40s. We'll start out next week, again, on the warm note with temperatures on Monday in the 40s, but then we're going to see a couple of systems next week. One will come in, it looks like Tuesday, Wednesday, with either snow or a rain-snow mix, a little far out to be able to tell. That one doesn't look like a big one. But the one late next week, I'll tell you what, somewhere in South Dakota, the tri-state region, Minnesota, somebody's going to get hit hard. And the exact track of this storm is still in question. And just to give you an idea, and I'll be posting an article later this afternoon on our website and on our social media pages, I'm going to compare what the models had from yesterday and compared to today. And one of the models, what a difference a day makes. The other model was very consistent, and that's what we look for is consistency in our models. You don't want that flip-flop back and forth because typically the models don't really handle things very well. But the LRC has had, for the last few months, the 17th through the 24th, that week stretch, highlighted on the LRC calendar of very stormy conditions around here. And now our models are coming into agreement with that. So just prepare if you have any travel plans late next week through about the 24th or so. There's going to be some pretty nasty weather in the northern plains, so you might want to adjust your travel plans accordingly. And we've been lucky so far. We've had a couple of what I call those mini blizzards where, we get a few inches of snow, but 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds with it. One of these storms before the month is done is, again, that 17th through the 24th time frame is going to contain both heavy snow and wind with it. So we're due. We're long. I hate to say we're long overdue, but we've been lucky so far this winter and even last winter. So we'll see if the luck continues. I have a funny feeling our luck is going to run out before the month is done. But then as we take a look into March, even according on the LRC calendar, temperatures don't look too bad. Pretty close to a little bit above normal for the month, and only one real target area of any chance for a major storm, and even that doesn't look that bad, and that would be right around the 8th through the 13th of March. Other than that, the month of March looks kind of quiet, according to the LRC. So that would be a nice little change as well. So if this bump in the road that we have coming later next week into the following week. If that's it for winter in terms of any really, really nasty weather, I think we can handle that, especially after a nice mild week this week.
Most could. I mean, nobody wants to see those big wet snowstorms that happen late March into April, because usually that interferes with young calves and not in a positive way. So I'm all for letting that not happen this year. We'd be okay with
That
it.
would be a nice change, wouldn't it? No doubt. No
Very,
doubt.
very. And today's weather is brought to you by Progressive Ag. They are our risk management specialists. There's a lot of things happening today in the show, and you're going to want to keep this number handy. That is the one for the JLA Insurance phone line. Number is 701-293-9000. Brought to us by Nate Thorsrud. He's a farmer himself. He understands what's going on with crop insurance and how it impacts a farm. So you're going to want to give him a call and make sure to catch up on the changes coming from March. Also, you can watch us on our live stream brought to you by Lighthouse Commodities, Acres TV, Facebook, and YouTube. If there's something that you missed, you want to go back and watch, well, there's always a chance because they're recorded, or you can just watch them live, because you never know when we have great graphics in addition to what guests are sending us when they want us to share with you. And we're watching those emails. You can do that by reaching us with our Superior Grain powered inboxes. Dean is weather at Flag Family. I'm ag at flagfamily.com. And with Superior Grain Storage, they bring you storage, drying, and handling solutions at superiorbins.com. But again, you can send us emails thanks to Superior Grain Storage. Okay, that's just a few of the things that are going on. We're going to have a couple of contests throughout this week. We didn't get to our 3M giveaway yesterday. Our safety gift pack, we got preempted due to some sports announcements happening up at NDSU. I'm going to move that to Wednesday so we can do that, give away our 3M gift. We also will have Wednesday weather trivia tomorrow. We got another giveaway coming up today.
This is a big one.
Big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. We're not sure when we're going to do it yet.
How about
you got to be listening to win.
Let's do it. Let's do it the last segment, between 145 and 155.
See, you took away all the surprise. I wouldn't
sorry.
have told them that much. I'd have just said this hour.
But see, that keeps them tuning in. This is a big concert giveaway, so I think a lot of people are gonna. If you can get the tickets for this,
well,
it's gonna be a nice concert. We'll leave it at that.
Actually, it's already on our Facebook.
Did we
page
post it on?
Weather
Okay, you did post that on our social media. Okay.
Yep. So here's the deal. It's been announced that Friday, April 17th, legendary music group Alabama is coming to Shields. They're bringing with them their very special guest, Exile. Well, the pre-sale tickets go on sale this Friday, February the 12th, right? 13th. Sorry, I had to look at a calendar. So this Friday, you can start the pre-sale tickets. But even before that, if you're listening today during our show, you have the opportunity to win tickets. We're going to give away a pair for that concert. Again, that is at Shields Arena, 7 o'clock on Friday, April 17th. So mark your calendars. You could be some of the first people to say, I got my Alabama tickets. I last saw them 2 years ago in Sioux Falls during the South Dakota Cattlemen's gala for their foundation.
Good show.
It was fun to watch.
Awesome.
That was their 50th year of touring.
Wow.
Think about that.
Wow.
2 years ago, that was their 50th year of touring in 24.
Now, some bands, over the years, they're gonna, their voices change a little bit. But how did they sound when you saw them?
The same.
Did they?
But
good?
Understand that there's been some changes in the lineup. For instance, one of the members of the band has passed away. They have a lot of family that have stepped up. So you'll notice when somebody gets tired, they can just hand off an instrument to another family member who is their backup. And when you do that, it's kind of nice to know that sometimes when you're in the same family, maybe you sound a little bit alike. So it's fun to watch. The sound is the same. It's probably something that a lot of us listening today grew up with. There was nothing like Alabama on AM radio when you were a kid in the tractor, I'll tell you that much. So stay tuned for that, because when you hear the song, when we play it, don't call now, but when you do, you will call the JLA Insurance phone line at 701-293-9000, and you will be caller number 12 to win the tickets. All right, a couple of things that have been going on. Well, technology-wise, when we talk about particularly wheat plants don't create their own nitrogen. That's more common in a legume like a soybean. You know that a soybean plant will help itself and it doesn't need to have commercial fertilizer added to it. But meanwhile, researchers at the University of California, Davis, recently figured out a way to use CRISPR, which is gene editing, where you can take very specific bits of DNA, move them from one plant to the other, such as moving some stronger genetics to a more weaker genetic plant. What they're able to do with CRISPR is to help the plants essentially feed themselves. They can utilize nitrogen in the soil and be able to pull nitrogen out of the air in order to feed themselves with fertilizer, particularly that nitrogen source. Because fertilizer input costs on average are about 25% of overall operating costs in a wheat crop, it's about 15 to 20% in corn. And because corn and wheat are both monocots, as you see this information transition into wheat, could it eventually go to corn and we would have the opportunity for corn to be self-fertilizing, so to speak? Maybe. It's about 10 years away, and we'll see if it happens. But that's at least one of the things that's going on today in agronomy across the U.S. We're going to hear about more things that are going on, and that will happen when we are joined in our next segment by Max Steffes. Max will be here for On the Action Block. Let's see what's going on with Steffes Group when we return. It is time to join the Steffes group, Max Steffes in particular, for On the Auction Block. And there's plenty of things to talk about in the world of auctioneering these days, but most importantly, Max, if I'm not mistaken, you had a bit of an important lunch today with folks who tend to hold a few purse strings, and I was curious, how'd that go? Did you learn anything?
I would try to learn something every day. It was so what it was our lunch on us. We've been doing it since about 1996, and it's a gathering of sorts with ag bankers throughout the Red River Valley, and we try to share news and information as it pertains to production agriculture and learn a thing or two. Of course, those folks are real busy visiting with farmers right now, getting the loan renewals completed and wondering where machinery values at so if you're listening and you haven't completed your loan renewal, go visit with your banker. I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Oh, yes. Yes, I think they would. They might be holding a spot for you at this point to have that discussion. uh, in a conversation like that, did you have any surprising discussion points that were brought up, whether it was by you to the bankers or vice versa?
A lot of curiosity as it relates to sugar policy and the sugar deal in the Red River Valley, of course, with the various cooperatives. The sugar thing is changing from a food pyramid perspective. Of course, they flipped the food pyramid upside down, and with the Ozempics and all the other GPL-1 drugs and the reduced consumption of sugar is going to change in the valley, in my opinion. And with that comes less production. So that was part of our conversation. And then overall, just talk about land values and machinery values, which things are fairly good, Bridgette.
I read that you're going to have an article coming out in Dakota Farmer pretty soon, and you talked about that where, oftentimes we think that there will be a financial correction, particularly in the agricultural industry, and we see that if we see a downturn in land values, but we haven't yet. So we're probably saying that we're going to see a continuation throughout the calendar year, or what could be that black swan event that throws us off?
Yeah, so from a farmland values perspective, I like to look at the surveys this kind of time of year, and a lot of them come out this time of year. So the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers recently released their report for North Dakota that showed about a 2% decline in land values in the state of North Dakota. The surveys throughout our trade area from Iowa all the way up to Saskatchewan show that plus or minus 5%, depending on where you're at. So it's a really interesting market, Bridgette. We're in a marketplace where I would say overall land values are down from their highs, probably 10 or so percent, but we're still setting some county records, which is a really challenging market from a price expectation standpoint. And so land values are down, but at the same time they're up in places, and it's got me scratching my head just like it does everybody else, I'm sure.
And okay, so I heard you say that they're down, you're looking like 2%, maybe plus or minus 5% throughout the geography. Is that a substantial shift? Would we be concerned about that and what that does to a lot of balance sheets in the area for farmers, et cetera? Or is 2% still able to say, well, we're pretty flat in most of our values?
I would say it depends on where you're at and what you got. Marginal land defined by poor drainage access and soil quality is probably the land that's, the first land down and the last land up. So that land is probably being affected for the most part. But when you compare it to equity markets and the swings that the stock market does, I mean, land values historically have been fairly stable, especially the good land. Good land seems to do one of two things, either stay the same in value or continue to rise. So it's still a great time to sell. It's still a great time to buy, when it comes to farm real estate, if you can afford it. That's the big thing.
And it's not even about a big piece of farmland. The little hobby farms, the ranchettes, are really popular, and I don't think those are going to lose their value anytime soon, especially within a close proximity to a community. We've mentioned that before, but as we get closer to spring, I feel like that's a piece of property that's going to sort of heat up, if you will, when it comes to people looking for that item.
Yeah, the consumer trends have really shifted over the last 10 or 20 years. Everybody wants a farmstead nowadays, and when we feel it on the auction block from a value perspective. If I had 10 acre farmsteads within a 45-mile radius of Fargo, I think I could sell them all and and any real estate agent in Fargo would tell you the same thing. Those properties are in hot demand, and that's a stark departure from when my dad was growing up, where everybody wanted to they wanted to move away from Arthur, North Dakota, not move to Arthur, North Dakota. It's changed so much.
Well, I hope every time you sell them a piece of a property like a small hobby farm, you insist they take a small tractor with so they can move snow and mow the lawn and that type of thing.
I think we call that a twofer in the business, selling the farmstead and the tractor.
I'm there for the bundle opportunities. Why wouldn't you? So, Max, you might have some upcoming land auctions in particular. Is there some that you want to highlight for us?
Yeah, a significant auction event's going to occur on the 10th of March. We're going to be selling about 4,400 acres across 4 different counties on the 10th of March for the Edson and Margaret Larson Foundation. So it's going to be 3 auction events. There's 3,089 acres in Steele and Trail counties, and the towns that land would be closest to would be Hatton, Mayville, and Clifford, North Dakota. Moving out to Carrington, North Dakota, there's 750 acres that are going to be offered. And then in Barnes County, north of Valley City, there's about a section of land that's going to be offered with, I think that property has 7 wind towers on it that pays out to about $60,000 a year. So all this land is going to be available to farm this year or rent out to the guy that you want to farm it. So it's going to be a great opportunity for farmers to invest in some more land for this year, and also for those investors that are looking to make an investment in some high quality farmland. So we're really excited about that auction event on the 10th of March.
Early on I heard you say that even though land values overall might say they're 2% down across North Dakota, there are pockets where things are a little bit higher yet as far as their value. Would any of this land in those auctions, like the Steele and Chill County area, or Barnes or Foster, would those be some of the hot spots, if you will, where land is trading in North Dakota?
We'll find out on the 10th.
Okay, that's a fair answer. We're not sure yet. Okay. Well, and there's lots of reasons when I get messages from listeners who say, I can't believe that piece of property went for X amount of dollars. I don't think we remember all the time what might be going on behind that. I just had a conversation yesterday with a farmer in Iowa, and he said, look, the land was valued higher than what it actually sold at auction, but it was my mom's family land, and we were going to buy it no matter the price. And sometimes that's the greatest motivator.
Oh, absolutely. And you get land that's across the road from you that you've been driving by for 50 years, or maybe your dad's been driving by for 50 years. I mean, you've got to buy those pieces. And that just speaks to the overall strength in production agriculture right now. The majority of producers are in a great position to do that, and to go out there and pay a little more for a piece of ground that they really want. And that's a good thing. We should see that as a strength of the overall strength of production agriculture. If that wasn't happening, I would be concerned. But where we got to watch out is our expectations from a seller perspective on land that maybe has a few issues or is in an area where it's not as competitive. Those parcels have really pulled back from a value perspective.
And that's a good point I heard you say buyers and sellers, because you're not just willing to be there for the buyer. You want to make sure you can talk to those sellers. And if those folks are considering selling a piece of property, right sizing their equipment lineup, there's still time to do it. And what would you say is the right way to contact you, Max, to get that done with Steffes Group?
We're old school. Stop by our office in West Fargo on Main Avenue, or you can always pick up the phone and contact myself or any one of our representatives. We would love to visit with you if you're thinking about doing something like that.
Max Steffes, thanks for being a part of our day with On the Action Block from the Steffes Group. When we return after the news, we've got another guest coming up, and stay tuned. Maybe you are going to walk away at the end of the day with 2 tickets to see Alabama at their concert at Shields Arena in April. sometimes you come across an organization or information in the industry and you're thinking, who's that? What is that? Well, good news. We just bring them here to Weather and Ag in Focus so they can explain that for themselves. Patrick Rosenthiel, founder and director for Farmers for a Fair Deal. Patrick, do tell us more. What's going on in this situation? What is Farmers for a Fair Deal?
Well, Farmers for a Fair Deal, we're basically a platform or like a community that brings people together so we can break down what sound like complicated public affairs, issues or public policy issues, and then educate the public on it, whether it's in rural America, suburban America, or urban America, to allow people to weigh in on issues that we think advance the cause of rural economic development, because we think a strong rural America leads to a strong America. So our footprint is in the upper Midwest. Current projects is a focus on 45Z, which is a rule in Treasury that is now open for a public comment period. And, that's kind of who we are, where we come from, and what our motive is.
Okay, let's talk about a few of these things. You said breaking down what's going on policy-wise and for the general public, but maybe even for farmers, because my guess is not everybody is sitting in the driver's seat on the 45Z situation and knowing exactly what that may or may not do to impact them on their farm. So how are you reaching both the public and the farm sector?
Well, we're doing a lot of events in the local communities in North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, kind of that upper Midwest footprint. When they were considering the rule, we were educating farmers and rural co-ops and sort of Main Street businesses in rural America about how 45Z, if we can attach the tax credits of 45Z and make sure they apply in the regions in which the fuel is produced, right? 45Z is a tax credit that's attached to biofuel production for transportation industry. We wanted to make sure that the Treasury understood, or that folks weighed in with Treasury, to say that if you can keep that tax credit in the upper Midwest, where 90% of these biofuels are produced, that would allow biofuel producers to invest in the grid, for example, drive demand for inputs, which is soybean, corn, sorghum, all of the biomass that goes into energy production. And then we all know that if farmers are winning, and if biofuel producers are winning, that kind of lifts Main Street, everything from seed and feed to people who offer insurance, to the linemen who do the grid investment in rural communities across the Midwest. And I will say that Treasury did a really good job there, right? They actually did, in sort of the rule that is now open for public comment, they did sort of attach the tax credits to the region in which the energy is produced. They developed a bill that's very good for farmers, very good for biofuel production, and by extension, very good for the upper Midwest. There's some technical fixes they might consider around, some of the more technical provisions, just to make sure that the full benefit of the program is realized for rural communities in the upper Midwest. That's around placed in service language, just to make sure it's clear. But I think in the end, what Farmers for a Fair Deal did by educating the public weighed in. Treasury did a great job making sure that the benefits of 45Z actually reached the communities in which they were intended. And it's nice to have clarity, and it's nice to see when rural co-ops, energy producers, and farmers work together. It's a rising tide that lifts all boats in rural communities.
Okay, let's go back. You've got probably half our audience who doesn't have a direct connection to the farm. They are urbanites living in the Fargo-Moorhead area, and they're thinking, okay, so 45Z, yes, it can bring money back into the community. Their first thought might be, it doesn't actually impact me in any way. So what are the points you want to make to that listener who doesn't have a corn crop in the field, why 45Z truly matters in their world?
Well, it matters because investment in grids throughout that region, we all share the same electrical grid, so it'll drive down consumer energy costs everywhere when the tax credits get reinvested in sort of grid infrastructure, for example. But But I think my general message might sound hyperbolic, and it's not, which is, if you shop at a grocery store, and I consume food, and if you like to go to Fargo restaurants, which I've done anytime I'm through Fargo, you know that the North Dakota economy is only as strong as the communities in greater North Dakota, right? I happen to be a Minnesotan who lives in St. Paul, but I know that when rural Minnesota is doing well, we're all doing better. And, there's a couple of specific ways that I think, urban or Fargo folks benefit from 45Z. We all benefit when investments happen in the grid infrastructure because we all share the same grid and get our same energy source. So if you're concerned about inflation and energy, this is a good bill. If you like healthy farm communities delivering food to your restaurants, your home, and your grocery stores, this is good for North Dakota. It's good for Fargo. It's good for Moorhead on my side of the river. And, I definitely think we're only as strong as our rural communities.
So, what are some of the most common farmer questions that you have to answer? Because I think that farmers still say, hold on, what's going on in all of this policy as well?
Well, I think the farmers are by and large really happy. Every farmer I've talked to has been a champion of 45Z. I think they like the fact that there's clarity around it. I think they understand when biofuel industry is healthy, biomass, there's a demand for biomass, which generates more income on the farm. So I definitely think that farmers understand that 45Z is a good thing. I think the more complicated issue for them is why do we want to keep these tax credits in the region? Well, the reason we want to keep the tax credits in the region is because 90% of the biofuel production happens in their backyard, and so we want to generate more demand in the upper Midwest where the biofuels are produced. And also this energy grid infrastructure that can be done with these tax credits is obviously good for rural communities. So I think farmers by and large like it because it generates demand for their crops and biomass. I would also say that they're increasingly understanding that 45Z helps rural electric co-ops invest or biofuel producers invest in grid infrastructure, which is good to create more grid for everybody in their rural communities too, right? And that's kind of more of a rural economic development message that's good for farmers.
So with that rural economic development message, and you're talking about the tax credits, improving the energy grid, et cetera, does that translate over to being better for the small communities and the potential AI data centers that are coming into some of these areas as well?
Well, I guess I haven't really attached it. The AI data center piece of it. It's an interesting thing. It's something I should probably look into more. You know what I mean? To fully understand it. I think the real benefit of 45Z is it allows biofuels to invest in the grid in a way that will drive down the inflationary cost of electricity in rural communities. You know what I mean? And then,
Yes.
I don't want to get into the AI debate on energy needs for data centers. That's a separate issue, and it's one that I'd love to learn more from you on, or from anybody who can hear this, what their experience is in terms of the AI data centers. So I definitely think AI data centers generate more demand for electricity, which is an inflationary cost on electricity. So anything we can do to invest in the grid and drive down consumer prices, is probably a very good thing. And the connecting the two thoughts never occurred to me until you asked a really smart question, which is why
Well,
I do these
let
things.
let me know when you have the answer to that, and also let us know.
I will.
You mentioned the public comment period for 45Z. What comments should be made? What are the parameters around that? When's the end date? Who should be commenting? Some of those types of things, Patrick.
Yeah, I think the comment period's open till mid-April, and if anybody wants to get educated and learn about the comment period or why 45Z is good for rural economies on the Minnesota or North Dakota side of the river, I go to farmersforaffairdeal.org. We can help get you any information you need to weigh in if you agree with us that 45Z by and large is very good. I think most of our note to Treasury is thank you. Thank you for investing in rural communities in the upper Midwest.
I think that's a very positive note to be sending to the folks in Capitol Hill, et cetera. So, Patrick, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Well, I appreciate you making time for us, and I look forward to talking to you again. When I have an answer on AI, I'll let you know for sure.
Thanks. That'd be great. Okay. Don't forget, folks, that on Mondays going forward, Landmark Company joins us on the first Monday of each month. We talk about the drainage difference. And in the meantime, if you have questions that you want me to ask Landmark, you can send them to me, ag@flagfamily.com, or you can give Blake Sunday a call. He's with the Landmark team at landmarkteams.com. And you can even get his phone number for me. You can talk to him directly, and Blake will help hook you up with all your answers, what might be going on in drainage for your farm or small town or agribusiness. So, all right, got a chance to talk about Landmark today, a little bit about 45Z. Dean, what do you want to talk about when we come back?
Well, we're going to recap what the rest of this week looks like. I'll kind of touch on what late next week looks like because big changes are around the corner. And we have Alabama tickets to give away next segment, so you'll want to be listening for that. We'll have more on that coming up after the break. And there's your sounder that we've been looking for a pair of Alabama tickets. You can be caller number 12. Caller number 12 will win a pair of Alabama tickets coming up at the Shields Arena.
If you don't win, you can still go to the pre-sale, which is on Friday, February 13th. So Friday the 13th, you can go buy your Alabama tickets. They're bringing special guest Exile with them to the Shields Arena for that concert on April 17th.
Good deal.
It's going to be a great concert.
Oh, it's, Alabama. I mean, they've been around for how many years now? Did you say 50?
They have toured for 52 years.
52 years.
Alabama's tour schedule is as old as I am.
Yeah. They're still
like we started this deal together,
right? And they're still hanging in there. Yeah. That's awesome. That is awesome. So
they're probably in better shape than I am, at least financially speaking.
Right.
So yeah. And in fact, Randy Owens was at CalCon last week in Nashville. He is a registered cattle producer.
No
so
kidding.
He was there doing a meet and greet in one of the booths, but he's also there for his own information because he raises Limmy cattle.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, once we get caller 12, Big Game James will put him on hold and we'll get him on the air. But until then, we do have some pretty nice weather. We're finally seeing the sun come out here in the FM area, and we're going to continue to see more sunshine for the rest of the afternoon. And we're going to have temperatures today topping off right around that freezing mark, 30, 32 degrees. A little colder in the northern valley, but all in all, not a bad day. A little breezy out of the northwest at about 10 to 20. And then tonight, we're dropping off into the teens. We're in the upper 30s tomorrow. Then we're in the lower 40s Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'll slide it back a little bit into the 30s on Sunday, then warm it back up into the 40s on Monday. We're watching 2 storm systems next week, one Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. That one looks to be a weaker one, but then another one likely at the end of next week into that following weekend. That one poses the possibility of being a major storm system somewhere here in the tri-state area, North, South Dakota, Minnesota area. Somebody's going to get pretty good dumping, it looks like, from that second system late next week into that following weekend. And this weather, this hour, is brought to you by Progressive Risk Management. Yes.
You said late next week. Oh, crap. I just brought up my calendar.
And you're, you got to be traveling if that's the case, right?
I was going to be, but I can see where this is headed.
Yeah, I mean, there is a chance the storm passes just to our south, but I would not put any money. I wouldn't put any money on that. I think somewhere close to home here is going to take a pretty direct hit from this. And again, we'll iron out the details. That's a good 10 plus days away, so there will be some change.
Yeah, to the south. Want to take a guess where I was headed?
To the south.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We have, is Freddie on, is he on line 4 there?
Yes.
There we go. All right. And is this Freddie?
Yes. Hello.
Freddie, congratulations.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. Have you ever seen Alabama before?
No, never.
Big fan?
Absolutely. Family. We're all fans in the family.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, good deal, Freddie. Well, congrats on winning those tickets. And we'll be giving another pair away. I believe we're giving another pair away tomorrow, correct, Bridgette?
We are. We were only given 2 sets to give away, so I'm glad Freddie got one today. We'll see who's the winner tomorrow. Again, you have to be caller number 12 after we play one of Alabama's song clips, because that enables you to go to the Shields Arena April 17th at 7 o'clock to be a part of that concert with Exile. Otherwise, pre-sale starts this Friday.
Good deal. Well, congrats again, Freddie. Thanks for listening.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
All right, you got it. All right. So there's one happy listener. Good day. He's never seen him. A longtime fan. That's great. That's what we like to see, is somebody that's never seen him. What a treat. What a treat.
And this just goes to show how you should pay attention to our Facebook page for Weather, Nag, and Focus, because I put that out there this morning at like 9:10. So, never know what might pop up from our page. So pay attention. There's always good things out there.
That's right. That's right. And we'll be giving away one of our bait up fishing bait ups from Darter Plastics. We'll be giving that away tomorrow. Yep. I'm going to throw in another surprise with that tomorrow as well. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but so we'll be giving away quite a bit tomorrow. And
We will.
yeah, so it
We have
should
a 3M safety package as well.
nice.
We're going to put together some gifts in a special packaging to give out to one of our listeners. So tomorrow's going to be a day to pay attention. Also, our guest tomorrow will be a lot of fun. He's returning. It's Nate Schleif. He is in charge of the Grand Forks Toy Farm Show that's coming up in March. And this is like their 5th year of doing it. Nate invites me every year. This year I might actually get to go. So I'm kind of excited how the calendar falls. I really would like to go up there and see that show for a change. I'm very much looking forward to it.
And when is that again, Bridgette?
That'll be in March. I think it's the second weekend in March. If I go look at my calendar, it's probably, March 13th and 14th
Okay.
at the Alaris Center. One more headline for us, and that is that Indigo Carbon PBC, that's their full name, Indigo Ag, they have announced one of the largest soil carbon deals to date. This is a 12-year agreement with Microsoft. Microsoft will purchase 2.8 million credits that have been generated under the Carbon by Indigo program. What does all of that mean? Okay, companies like Microsoft produce a whole lot of carbon that goes into the atmosphere. And you know how everybody's all over greenhouse gases. Well, in this situation, what Microsoft wants to do is pay farmers to offset their greenhouse gas emissions. The way farmers do that is by using erosion control, cover crops, more no-till, those types of things. And so the farmer gets rewarded because Microsoft wants to buy carbon credits to offset what they normally do. Indigo's the middleman. They're the folks that connect Microsoft with the farm to make sure that money travels back and forth. Carbon credits can also be done with a couple of other companies, but so far this is kind of the largest one that's really hit home as of late. And again, that's going to be between Microsoft and Indigo. So if you're curious about that carbon program for farmers, you're going to want to go to Indigo Ag and check out their website. You'll probably find quite a few details on there for it. That's just one of the things that's happening. There's always many, many more, and we'll be able to talk about those tomorrow again after we have our guest, Nate, and lots of headlines to go along with it.
All right. Well, that'll do it for Bridgette and myself for today's version of Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us. But don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show, that's coming up next.